So this week has been a lot of querying for me.
You started querying. How many did you send out?
I have 4 out right now, and I want to send out another one like today or tomorrow. Depends on when I get time.
Okay. I actually have been thinking about this because I'm almost finished editing the novel that I want to start querying, but I think my agent list has shifted. And so I kind of
Hmm.
actually need to get back and rearrange my agent list. At querying my first novel, I learned a lot from it. And I was like, yeah, I really didn't vibe with this agent, so maybe I should not put them on my list. Maybe I do need to look for different ones. So I think that should be a next thing on my list. Too many things on the list.
I've been spending a lot of time looking at conferences that are coming up and haunting the agents that are doing live queries. I'm not actually going to the conferences because I don't have money for all of them. but
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the saddest things of being a South African author is the fact that we can't go to writing conferences. And don't go and tell me, yes, you can. No, it is expensive. I cannot. So I can't just show someone my passport and then just get access to a country. I actually have to apply for a visa, and that visa can be denied or accepted. That's I feel that's the part people do not understand. And America is very hard to get into, especially if you're from South Africa. Okay, so I have my rooibos tea, my trusted old friend over here.
I've got my apple cider. It's getting a
Your
little
trusted
chilly.
old friend over there.
My trusted old friend over here.
Let's go into this episode with some apple cider and rooibos tea. Hello everyone and welcome to Tea and Tales. I'm Madeleine Einau.
And I'm Sarah Sampson. We want to thank everyone who's been joining us for all of our episodes, wherever you are watching us from, especially Scott Richmond and Michael Furberger. Thank you so much. Today is our next installment, our fourth installment in our NaNoWriMo series. And we've called this one Getting in the Zone. Are we even in the zone for this episode? Like, are we ready?
honestly, I'm already in vacation mode because we have a long weekend this weekend. And so we're going to the farm. I'm just vibing at the moment here, just existing until Saturday morning.
Which is one of the most hilarious things about getting in the zone to me is if you're in vacation mode, you can't get in the zone. Sometimes while you're on vacation, all of a sudden all the ideas come. It's the
True. And literally, I'm looking forward to this long weekend because it's going to be 4 days. Because I was like, I'm going to take my laptop with me, I'm going to take a book to read with me, and I'm actually going to be working, is the intention.
I've been haunting a lot of the different, how do you get in the zone, articles that I find on the internet. I'm looking for ideas because I feel like I start an idea and it works for a while, and then my brain's just like, I'm done with that one. Can we do something else? And so then I have to find a new way to get excited and energetic about things.
Oh no, were you one of those kids that were very bored? You would be asking for a year for a toy, and then finally you get the toy, and then you're like, well, that was fun 5 minutes. What's next?
I plead the fifth. But maybe when we talked about character, we talked about some of the ways that we get into our characters' minds. And if I get into my character's mind, I get more excited about the story, and the story can flow. And sometimes I have a great idea, can sit down and write a scene. But especially as a discovery writer, that doesn't always work. Like, I may feel my character, be excited about my character. I might have my soundtrack on. I've had thinking about all my scenes, and I sit down and nothing happens. I want to talk about some of the ways that have worked for me in the past, and I have to rotate through them because they don't always work. If it doesn't work for you, don't feel bad. Like, if you get out of the zone, you get out of the zone, and you just have to find a new way to get back in. And tease those muses, bribe them with cookies or something.
Well, I actually like to compare that with watching series. I remember when I was growing up, literally you had an episode come out once a week. And then do you remember like in the next episode, the next week, then they were like, previously on CSI. And so you're like, oh yes, because I forgot because it was a week ago. And then after a whole season, you have to wait a whole year before the next season. So then you kind of do need the recaps in the beginning of this next season to be like, that's what happened. Whereas today, because we binge watch all these shows, you also have to move between shows because you're like, okay, I'm not vibing with this dude anymore, so can we do something else now? Oh, I need some depressing soul searching right now. So I feel that's kind of the same thing.
One of the ways that you can get into the zone in writing is a sprint. Though I have found that sprints don't work quite as well for me if I'm by myself. I have to drag my friends into it.
Yes, 1000%. I mean, I know in our writers group we do that a lot. Doing it alone doesn't always end up being that successful, but doing it with someone else, 100% passing rate.
I don't know if it's the competitive side of me that's like, ooh, I got to report how many words that I got at the end of this 20 minutes. And I want to not have like 300 words when everybody else has 600.
You know what's the worst? Every time that someone starts a sprint, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, well, this sucks. People come back and they're like, I wrote 600 words. And I'm like, I took 5 steps to go to the bathroom and back.
Sorry, I got 3 words.
There were 3 great words.
Sometimes you have to have that little bit of grace for yourself too. There were 10 really good words, and I spent the other 15 minutes researching something that I realized I wasn't ready to write. So next time, hopefully I'll get more words because I did that. Now I'm done and I can write more. Writing isn't always going to be speed writing. Sometimes it is going into space, trying to make sure you have everything straight in your head.
Just because you don't spend that whole 25 minutes writing doesn't mean you aren't writing. Because as we know as writers, as we know as authors, as we know as creators, there are so many elements that go into writing. So doing research, watching YouTube, listening to songs, typing 000 on your screen until an idea pops into your head, looking at Pinterest, or what did Ariana do? Yeah, she looked at her Pinterest to find, inspiration for your character or something like that. Even doing like mood boards or whatever you are vibing with, that I feel that all contributes to writing, and that all contributes to getting your novel where you want it to. So I want to give people that grace to tell them that not just because you are not physically writing doesn't mean you are not writing.
Exactly. And sometimes it means going back to things like your notes. You have to recalibrate your brain into where you're going in the story or what your plan was. I took one of the masterclass courses. I wish I could remember which author it was that said this in the masterclass course, but I can't remember who it is. And they said that they have a pattern. Some people thrive on patterns. And so they do the same thing for their writing time every day. They sit down at the same time every day. They have their notes and they know when I go into this next scene, these are the things I want to have happen, so that they have something to jump off of the next day into their writing. And I've found that helps a lot too. I don't have quite as structured because I have a 4-year-old. What I do is make sure I have a block of writing time every day, whether it's while she's at school or days she doesn't have school. If I just have a time, I'm going to sit down and try to write while she interrupts me. Yeah. The idea of having something to go off of to write has helped me. Something to just get those creative juices going seems to always help. Every now and then I just stare at it blankly and I have to find something else. But that one has been pretty regularly helpful for me.
You know what helps a lot for me? Deadlines. Funny enough, I have a love-hate relationship with deadlines, but I do thrive on deadlines because then at least I know the amount of time I have to do something and I just have to get moving to be able to do that. So for example, with my current beta reading group that I have, we have been meeting up like every 3 weeks, and then we share each other's like 10,000 words at a time. And so we would give a deadline for when we should share our pages with each other, and then we have a date for when we meet up over Zoom and talk about the feedback and all those things. It is a deadline that because I want my novel to succeed and because I want it to be finished and because I value the opinions and feedback of the people, I respect the time that they put in to be able to review my pages and to be able to help me strengthen my novel. So I only feel that it is fair that I do my part and have it in on time. And then, I lick this good because I eat this good. And so a lot of times I will reward myself with food. If I finish this chapter, I can go make myself some tea. Or I'd be like, if I finish this chapter, I can go eat that wrap that I made last night. So that is also one way to motivate myself to get in the zone.
Rewards actually work really well for me sometimes too. I have one of my writing groups that during our Nano, we decided that we were going to have a spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, everybody would say, what is your goal for the week? How are you doing on it? So we'd update it every day. And then what's your reward when you finish it? And it was very motivating because I knew they were going into the spreadsheet to check it every day. So I needed to show progress every day because in the back of my mind, they're all scrutinizing what each of us is doing, right? But also, if I get to have my treat, then the next time we meet, I'll be like, oh, that treat was so amazing. And then they can talk about how amazing their treats were. I was reading a great article about motivation from a journalist. His name is E16. I could be butchering that name. I'll link his blog in the bio of this episode. A couple of the things that he said that we have talked about on previous episodes. One was reading.
Yep.
But he said an interesting thing about it. He said, don't read what you think people want you to read, like the classics. Read the writing that you want to write like.
I know what I like to read. As soon as there's an animated picture, the chances are I will read it. If you have an animated picture on a romance novel, it also has a certain vibe to it. It has a certain writing style to it. And that is what I am drawn to. I write the way I write because I read the way I read.
You can learn how to write from reading good writing. So the other thing that he mentioned that we do a lot is write in your head before you write on the paper. And I do that a lot. And I've vaguely mentioned it here and there, where you think about your story, you think about your characters, you think about what they're going to do and how they're going to act. And he says when he sits down, he usually already has 2 or 3 paragraphs in his head, and he can write those down and then jump off of them and keep going. When I write something that I have been dwelling on and feeding through my research, I can write it a whole lot better.
100%. I think I said it in the Preparing Your Story with Ariana. I also said that my story already plays off in my head. Like I know how it begins, how it is the middle, and how it ends. And so it just basically has to sit there for a while and simmer. And then I'm like, okay, I have an idea where I want to go with this. Then I'm going to write it down. So I totally agree with that one as well. Like you, I have many different ways of getting in the zone. I just don't think about it. It just comes naturally. It's like eating.
Especially once you get into the habit of writing. And that's one of the big things that I saw on everything that I read from everybody, everything that I've ever heard on Masterclass is getting into the habit. That's one of the things that Nano is supposed to do for you. If you are burning out, then 50,000 words is too much. Try 25,000 words, get into that habit. Practice your writing, and it will eventually build up to 50,000. We have a couple people in one of my writers groups that have never finished a Nano, and they keep getting very upset about it. And I tell them every time, I'm like, but are you sitting down and writing? They're like, yes. I said, then you're doing it right. I feel like there's a lot of pressure put on you to get your whole novel written in a month, get 50,000 words done in a month. And so then people feel stressed by that. Instead of realizing, where am I growing? Am I figuring out how to get into the zone each day and putting words on the page each day? If the answer is yes, you're doing it right. Keep moving forward.
Yeah. But then I have a question. Like, what happens when you get sick and you are out for a week, or you have a headache that like just puts you down for the day, and you're in such a schedule and you are almost, I want to say, so motivated to do that, but then that just completely knocks you off your equilibrium. I almost feel like you are knocked off and then trying to get again, like find your way back, because it happened to me and I was like, I still feel like I'm struggling to get back into a rhythm because I haven't fully caught up with it yet.
I think that's the first thing to stop and recognizing yourself, is that every writer in the world knows that situation. All of us have experienced it, where real life happens. If you are in it once, you can get in it again. Reevaluate where you are now, because maybe something major happened in your life. Maybe you moved from Spain to the United States and now everything's off by 8 hours and you don't have the same people you were writing with before because they didn't move, but all of your times have changed. Let's just say that happened to me.
For example, just randomly.
You have to give yourself the 2 or 3 months that it takes to resettle into a new schedule and figure out what is the new pattern now for me.
No, very true. That is. Because life constantly moves. But you are still the same person. You still have the great ideas that you have. And you still have that pen and paper that you can use to get those words down.
Absolutely. And I think another part of it is to not let the guilt of I didn't write because I was sick or whatever happened. Don't let yourself feel guilty because life happened.
These past few episodes, I am actually excited. I feel actually a little bit inclined to do NaNoWriMo this year because I've never wanted to do it before, because I feel pressured and I don't like feeling pressured. That's not what I'm vibing with. And so I actually like having these subjects that we're talking about and understanding NaNoWriMo beta and understanding that you're not being crucified if you don't finish your novels. It is there to motivate you and to help you. I'm actually sitting here and I'm like, should I not?
I think you should. So here's my question now. Because you work, my work is my writing and taking care of Jessica, and you work with kids, so you're tired.
All the time.
That is a different way to struggle, to be able to go to a full-time job and then come home to your second job tired and still have to write. How do you make that switch in your mind and jump off and stay motivated?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know a lot of people would be like, oh, wake up at 5 a.m. to write my novel, and I'm like, no way in hell will I ever wake up earlier to write. Sleep, number one priority. Then everything else in life comes, okay? As much as I love writing, I shan't ever wake up at 4 to write an hour before I actually have to get up at 5. But a lot of people do that, which is, I wish I had that motivation to get up early. It's so hard because I don't have a set schedule for, okay, every night I'm going to write between 6 and 7 or 7 and 8. Because I do have other stuff I need to do. Like we have a recording that we do. And then a lot of times I babysit my sister's kid, or I have a teacher conference, or I have a concert for the school, or things like that. So it's never consistent, and the days that I work is also never consistent because sometimes I work till 6, other times I work till 5. So I've actually replaced watching television for writing. So in the evenings, instead of coming home, sitting, making my food and watching a show, I would come home, make my food, and I would write. And so again, it doesn't happen every single night, which is hard because then I'm like, but I had this idea today and I wanted to write it today, but I don't have the time. The day that I actually do have time, then I sit. And the problem I have though then, once I start writing, I don't stop. So then I write until 11, 12 o'clock, and then I have to wake up at 5 again. It's fine. Who needs sleep? That's what Red Bull is for. So it's very inconsistent, which is not very convenient. But because I'm passionate about it and this is what I want to do and I want to share my story with people, that keeps me motivated to not watch Only Murders in the Building. The new season came out and I want to watch it so badly. But I'm like, no, we have to write. We have to be responsible. So this is where I have to be an adult and I have to, prioritize what is important. I will go back to what I have said in previous episodes and to say that writer groups and someone who will keep you accountable is really helpful, because a lot of times I would text one of my beta reading friends and I'm like, hi, can you do a writing session now? And then she's like, I just got home. And I'm like, so is that a yes? We would sit an hour and do a writing session, which is really helpful. I always have a list of things I want to do. And that also helps me because at least if I have a list, I have something to work over. So if I come home and I'm not in the mood for writing, children has been screaming in my ear all day, then I'm like, okay, let's do some research. Or I'd be like, okay, let's work on our agent list. Or let's do something, let's edit a novel or something like that, where I don't have to think about my characters and I don't have to think about what's going to happen next in the plot. What I have done sometimes is I do my writing on Google Doc, and so I have it on my phone. And so if I am in the grocery store or I am at the dentist or wherever, I have that ability or accessibility to sit there and continue writing what I have been writing. So it's, for me, it's literally like finding the small moments and just trying to get as much done as possible.
I love that because I started using Google Docs a lot more this last year when I have Jessica home all the time now because the schools here in Utah are different than in Spain. And so I take her up to a local trampoline park so that she can get her energy out, and she wants to be there 2 or 3 hours. So then what do I do for 2 or 3 hours? I start using the Google Docs. We like to keep it short here at Tea and Tails. Get your fingers back on the keyboards and your pens back on the paper.
If you like what we do here, please go to that purple icon on your device and go give us 5 stars so that it can bring us up to the top. And go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Tea and Tails Podcast, and on TikTok and Twitter/X at Podcast Tea Tales.
And please send us this answer to our next Slap Me with a Wet Fish episode. We want to know who your favorite author or book is that you wish more people knew about. Happy writing!
Bye!